Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Green Pill Podcast. Again, I guess I'm Jeffrey, and I'm here by myself. Of course, hopefully, Kat will be back because I miss my co host, but hopefully, she has recovered from the convention. That was really taxing. Sleep, what's that? Well, I don't know. But this week, we are talking about compliments. Yes, compliments. In terms of how do you give a compliment and how do you receive a compliment? And what do compliments mean? I think one thing to remember about compliments is that there is a potential gender imbalance between the concept of a compliment. Think about this. If you're a woman and someone compliments something that you can't control, something about you specifically, not something you chose, like a hairstyle or a clothing option, or the boots you're wearing, or a tattoo you have, just something that you were born with, like, for instance, your breasts. That can be considered rude for two reasons. One, obviously, because she can't control it. So what's the point? But two, it is somewhat sexualized. And therefore, you're going to this woman and sexualizing her. And the last thing you need, and last thing of a woman needs, is to be sexualized. I often say, in fact, when I am looking for a partner, I don't like to think in terms of a sexual partner or a sexual relationship. Oh, sure, I want that as much as anyone. But what I do think in terms of, so I want a romantic relationship, a relationship that will generally have romance as an element of it that implies physical intimacy. But that is another story. Today, though, I want to talk about how you get to that relationship, and that is through communication, which we've talked about before in the icebreaker speech and other things, and compliments. So, compliments. What are some good compliments? In our icebreaker speech, we talked a bit about Kat, my co host, a nice man, complimented her boots, the boots she chose, the boots she liked wearing. That is something that is showing you are into what she thinks. And I think that statistically, this isn't necessarily a truism, but statistically, there are situations where a woman will get compliments and likes and such to the point of another man is giving her another compliment. And what's the point? And if you are not someone she wants to receive that compliment from, you're actually likely to get politely or not politely turned away. But let's do this now from the male point of view. And I will tell you, today I got a compliment on my hat. Oh, I love wearing hats. And I remember compliment. Now, I did receive it from a bloke. And in some ways, that is nice. Uh, when a guy notices your haberdashery, it's nice. When a woman notices your haberdashery as a straight male, oh, I'll remember that one from my life. The hat I may forget tomorrow, that compliment, but oh, a woman saying she liked my red shirt. Oh, that's something I'm bringing to my grave because that is such a rarity. Heck, I was married And I can probably remember every single compliment that my ex-wife gave me when we were dating or married because they're just not common, those compliments. But I recognize that from a woman's point of view, the compliments coming from a guy can be considered trivial and inconsequential. And yet, from another woman, because women complimenting other women, not necessarily as common as that, all that, and generally more from the heart because she's doing it not because she's interested in dating you. She's just doing it because she's your friend. And that does mean more to a woman typically. Because when another woman says, hey, I really like that blouse, then you can appreciate the fact that she really liked your blouse. And it wasn't a guy checking out your blouse and just thinking of your cleavage. That is the thing. But you compliment a woman in terms of her shoes, or I've said before, I love telling folks, and I don't have any tattoos, but I love telling folks who have tattoos that they're nice tattoos. No, I mean, I'm not going to lie. If I didn't like the tattoo, I probably won't say anything about it. But if the tattoo is nice, I will compliment the tattoo because I know that's something that that person chose and endured to get added to their skin. And that is something that shows something they have. It's something they chose, not something that is intrinsic that they can't control. That, I think, is the secret to a good compliment. The compliment should be about something the person chose, something that is an aspect of their selves and not their body. You who personally can like her body, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with liking a woman's body. And there's nothing wrong with liking a man's body. There's nothing wrong with either of those things. But when you're fixated on those things, they trivialize the person behind those things, the personality, the brain that is generating so many things about that. And personally, I recognize that too. I mean, if a woman came to me and said, I really like your nose, well, I would be amused by that. I never really think about my nose that much, but okay, I'm glad you appreciate my nose. But the nose is something I don't control. And so I would take it as, well, there you go. You're just liking my nose. That's great. On the other hand, if she says, I really like that Doctor Who pin you're wearing because, oh my goodness, I love Doctor Who too. That's an in. That's something that I'm gonna like remember even more because there we've got something to connect us. And that's the thing, bringing the connection in. I think the other thing we brought up in that episode, the Hudsucker Proxy. I mean, there again, we're talking about an esoteric film that I am familiar with and my co-host is familiar with, and we can bond over. Doctor Who is pretty well known. If you had asked me that same thing in the 1990s, and you notice my Doctor Who pin, I am thinking a lot more of you because Doctor Who was off the air a long time. If you wore a Firefly pin, or I wore as a Firefly pin, and we bonded over Firefly, I mean, then you're a true fan because you're still talking about Firefly decades after it went off the air. And believe me, us Firefly fans are just like, oh my goodness, especially folks like me who was aware of it when it was going on, but didn't really watch it when it was on. And was part of the problem why it got canceled because if I had watched it when it was going on, it would have had one more fan. I came to the party too late, and I feel bad about that. I think MST3K is another one where it went to Netflix and I was just taking my time to watch it. And by the time I finally got through all the episodes, it had already been canceled. Sometimes being late to the party actually has consequences. But again, back to compliments. If you compliment something, someone does. If you comment on this video and say something like, oh man, what you said was inspiring to me and really just hit home, I'm going to remember that. And I'm going to thank you for all of that. So, all I'm saying is be mindful of the compliments, be friendly about the compliments. Don't make it about the person that is, make it about what the person does or has. And you can't go wrong with that. Again, that's been this week of Green Pill Podcast. We hope Kat will be back next week. Back, maybe. If not, we hope to have a guest. I do have someone lined up that is willing to come on the show, talk about something that is near and dear to them. So until next week, be well, healthy, and always feel free. You can reach out. Take care. And that has been another Green Pill Podcast.